guess we're ready. So Phil, if you can unmute yourself.
Okay. I lost the big picture somehow when I went to just check the name. Let's see. I don't know how to get back to see Nick. Can you see me? Can everybody see me? Yeah.
Sure.
I think the way it works is when someone talks and you have the big picture mode on, their picture shows up.
Right. No, I know, but all I have are 3 pictures. I have Kevin, you, and me. I don't see, but I can see you. So
Okay, good.
I don't know what these show. Thumbnail video, show active speaker video. Why is it so small? Okay. All right, Nick, can you say something just so I can make sure you're there?
Yes. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, but I can't see you.
Here, let me try.
But now I can see you. All right. All right.
Good.
Yeah. Really excellent. I mean, it's very, very strong, very musical. I mean, full of passion, strength. Very in tune, which is not so easy. So those are all good things. I mean, I have a few suggestions just to consider. I mean, you know, you can play this particular piece for 100 people, and you'll get 100 different ideas about it, and probably the next time you play it, you'll have 101st idea in yourself. You know, because it's one of these great pieces of music that we never really completely capture. We're always kind of trying to come up to the level, and Bach at his highest level is pretty impossible for us to achieve as mere humans. So all that said, there are a few things that I appreciate in what you're doing in terms of bending the tempos at certain points, and I don't think that, you know, it's necessary for the whole piece to be in any way metronomic, although there is something kind of hypnotic about the repeat of the bass line occurring where you expect it to each time. And I was really happy that you didn't mess around with the tempo too much in the early part of the chaconne. I think that's very important. I don't personally like it when, you know, like the first variation or the second variation is already not in the same tempo as the theme. I think it's too early to do that. So I commend you on that, and I would recommend that you hold on to that. I sort of feel that way almost with most music, that sure, if we want to play like in a classical form, if we want to play the second theme a little bit slower or a little bit off the tempo, that's fine. But we have to be careful in the beginning of a piece to make sure that we establish what the piece really is and what the tempo is and how the piece works, even if it's a piece as familiar as this. So for my taste, there are a couple of places where you do take time for a little bit too much, and I'll tell you why. The first one that I marked is, do you have measure numbers, Nick?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so I'm looking at when you're going into this music, it's going into measure 49, and you have but I agree with taking a little bit of time in 48, and maybe for that next section to be slightly off the tempo. But what I think you have to be a little careful with doing is if you play that downbeat D at 49 as an 8th note instead of a 16th note without setting it up exactly, it makes that measure 49 a different rhythm. You know what I mean? It doesn't. I don't perceive it as being free 16th notes. It sounds like a 16th note and then you know, a 7/8 bar or something. You know what I mean? It's just it becomes a little bit distorted. I know why you're doing it, and I agree with the intent, but just be careful that you don't add exactly another 16th note on that downbeat, because then you know what I'm talking about? It subverts the rhythm. You want to just try that one spot going into that, maybe come back a little bit. I just want to show you what I'm talking about, or have you show the other students what I'm talking about. Yeah, that's fine. That's good. And I think you still get your idea across that way, and you still feel like it's gone, across a kind of boundary there without distorting it too much. The other place where you really pull back the tempo, maybe a little too much for, again, it's my taste, is going into measure 81. It's a similar kind of place that you were just playing. The music gets kind of mysterious. And again, I know why you're doing it, because you're setting up the passage leading into the arpeggios. Could you try it maybe with just a little bit less, so it's not, you're almost twice as slow there now. And I think again, the intent is good, but it's just, I think it's too much. It starts to, you know what it is? It starts to pull a little bit on the fabric of the piece. The fabric is so incredibly beautiful, but you don't want to stretch it too far, because it's so complicated that there's something, even as strong as it is, in these places where you want to take the time are the more fragile places. So if you take too much time, it actually starts to tear the fabric slightly, the way I feel it. I think do what you're doing just a little bit less. Could we go back a little bit from that place? I'm talking about back around 77, maybe. Good, yeah. And then again, don't, just be careful that you don't hold the D exactly as an eighth note, the downbeat of 81. A little bit of time is okay if you're setting it up with a little bit of retard. But one of the amazing things about this spot is the jump from the D up to the B flat, right? If you take time, it's not as, we don't quite get that same feeling of the music really in a soft dynamic, jumping up that huge interval. Just do the bar before that once, and to see if you can get both things to work. Yeah, I mean, you could maybe even take a slight bit more time, because now you made a little more retard. I just don't want to hear da 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 da, b d, yeah, exactly an eighth note. So yeah, and then maybe bring the tempo back a little bit. Yeah, I mean, that's still a little bit too much for what I would do, but I think that's better. At least it made sense when I, in terms of what it looks like on the page. Let me just see if there's anything. Oh, this is something I always talk about with the arpeggio section, and I don't think it's necessary to do this, but it's just something to consider. I studied this with Oskar Shumsky, and he had the idea. I'm giving him credit because I don't want to take credit for this. It's smarter than I would have thought of, but to change the pattern every 8 measures. In other words, this is not a 32 bar section. It's still it's still four, it's four sections of 8 bars, right? The Passacaglia, the bass line, repeats every eight bars. So so his idea is to start the way Bach wrote it, which is the way you did. When you get to measure 97, and you could do this from the downbeat or the second beat, if because the chaconne starts on the second beat, right? To do the pattern that you're doing later around 113, to do the ba da ti da 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 ti da 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 ti da, to go to that pattern. So 2 notes and then 4 notes, 4 notes, and do that for 8 bars. And then at 105, go back to go to the triplets, go back to diddle 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 diddle, and then do what you did from 113. You go back to the other pattern. Is that clear what I'm talking about?
So what do I do at 101? Printed, or do I stay that ba da 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 da?
I would keep going with the ba da ti da 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 ti da da. Don't do the printed. It works really well, actually. Maybe you have to do some triplets and all, but the idea being, you want to just try it once and just see what it, so they can see what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So, and that'll go all the way, that pattern goes all the way to 105, and then you do what's printed until 113, and then you do it the way you were doing it. Yeah, so here you don't go to triplets. Just keep doing da da ti da 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 ti da 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 ti. The triplets are not right. Right. Yeah, that's great. That's great. Yeah. So I don't know. It's just a little more interesting that way than a lot of people just continue with a diddle 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 all the way through it. They don't change it at all. And you also have another arpeggio section coming later in the chaconne, and that one I do diddle diddle diddle. So yeah. So it's just when you hear the whole piece through, it's just a lot of diddle diddle diddle. It's more interesting to change it up a little bit. And I think it's nice both times. It brings out a little more of the middle note when it's moving, in the chord. So there's a musical reason to do it. It's not just arbitrarily changing the pattern. So we don't have a lot of time. I mean, with any of the three of you, I could probably easily spend a couple of hours just going through little things. But I did want to mention a couple of other little details. Be careful in the opening with the eighth note, because it tends to stick out a little bit. It happens to all of us, you know, because of the bow speed. So just be careful. It was really, you know, very little the way you were doing it, but just be careful with that. We all tend to do that. Each eighth note tends to be much faster bow speed, so it has to be a little lighter. I think in terms of the technical part of it, the only thing that I would say to you is that I think that your right hand could be a little bit more flexible, especially your fourth finger. It seems you know, you get it done. I mean, you are able to get all the chords and everything, and it doesn't sound tight. But when I'm looking at your hand, I'm wishing that this had more flexibility, more, you know, especially this side of it. So when you're going across the strings to the G string, that the fingers are a little bit more like shock absorbers. You know, they're allowing the chord to be a little bit more flexible in terms of your motion into it. Could you just try the opening and just try to bend your fourth finger a little bit more and let your hand, this motion that I'm doing, by the way, this kind of like on the surface of the hand, feeling that the fingers are loose this way is important. Make sure also the thumb, I can't really see your thumb the way the camera is. Make sure that this isn't tight underneath here, that this is also bent, and so you have that flexibility. I think it'll be easier, it'll be less tiring to play that way, and also the sound will be a little bit rounder. Yeah, good. You know, one good way to, it's already better. One good way to practice that is actually to not to even lift your arm, just for practice, and let the chords go just from the hand. Yeah, exactly. So to get to the G string, you have to relax and let them. Yeah, not too low the elbow, but just for practice. Yeah.
Oh, I know what
That's
you.
it. That's the idea.
I know what you.
Right. So you feel that the bow kind of wrapping around the strings, and you can't do that if your fingers are too tight. You know, then you have to do it all with your arm. Not do it using your arm, but try to keep some of that feeling of the hand in there too. Not too low your elbow. Yeah, that's great. That's great. That's a different, I mean, even through Zoom, I can hear the difference in the sound. It allows through your hand, through your fingers, it allows the bow to kind of get to the lower levels of the sound. So you're without pressing in, you're sinking in, you're getting a richer sound, and it should be easier. And if this hand is tight at all, even if just the little finger is tight, it's going to affect the left hand. We're so you know, two-sided. We have one brain, but we have two sides. So the one brain, if this side is tight, it's very hard for this side to be relaxed. Not that you were that tight, but you know what I mean. Did that feel better to do it?
Yes, it
Yeah.
did.
You can sort of feel, actually, you kind of feel like almost, it's a tactile thing where you almost feel like the hair is wrapped around the strings. That's the way to do it, but you can't do it if this is tight, even just that. All right, that's really, really important. If you work on that and just do some, even with the arpeggios, you know, just practice it without doing all this, just in the hand. And then of course you add a little bit of the arm to it. keep that feeling in the hand. It'll be a lot easier and more fluid and more, just more beautiful. The motion will be more beautiful and elegant. So, all right. Kevin, I'm not sure where we are with time. Are we about?
Okay. I mean, we could go on. You could do a little more. This is
Okay.
certainly the biggest piece.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how you go into the major. Could we try that? And again, I felt like the idea to make the cadence big is good, but you made such a huge retard. It felt, I mean, what are you going to do at the end of the piece? So yes, it's the end of this huge section, but there's also kind of a surprise, I think, that it stops, and we go into a major key. So if you make too much of a retard, it becomes a little too obvious to me. So maybe just go back a little bit. Okay, good. So here's a couple of thoughts. First thing I would do, before I forget, I think the trill should be from the top on the C sharp. You want to use that, the spiciness of the D and the E together by playing the trill from the top. Maybe a little bit longer D too, so I can really hear the seventh. Could you just try once not retaking for the major, but just starting up bow? And also, I like to do this, the beginning of this, without vibrato. I sort of imagine what it would sound like on an organ, where it would go to a different, manual of the organ for a different kind of sound, and maybe just that very pure sort of organ-like quality in a beautiful church. Maybe a little more on the fingerboard too, so it really sounds like something distant. We'll just try that. Just go maybe 2 bars before the major. Yeah, and also I think the cadence should go all the way to the D. Keep it strong all the way to the D, and then you can play soft for the major. Little less retard. Maybe also the trill can stop a little earlier, because now you're waiting for the trill to stop, and then you're playing the 8th note, and then we finally get to the cadence. So maybe stop. I sort of end up. I think I pretty much stop in the middle of the, on the beat, without accenting, but in there. Good. Yeah, yeah. I think in the context of the whole chaconne, that would be very beautiful to hear it that way. And isn't it easier just to stay there without retaking? Especially if you're going to play soft. I don't know why that down bow is there, but it's there. in the Galamian edition, and everybody does it, but I don't think it's good. Sorry, Mr. Galamian. Anyway, yeah, I think that's plenty. That's plenty of retard for this this moment, because you're going to have another big cadence going into 209 for and then the last section, and then you've got you want to say something for the very end. Good, and then I think if you start down that far, then as you're going on now into the eighth notes, you can even stay down, go back down again when you start the eighth notes. Because that's from there, it's going to build all the way, till well, it just keeps building and building and building through that whole section. With the pedal points on the A's and then switching to D. So you've got a long way to go, in other words. It's also the last section of the chaconne. You want to make sure you don't come up too soon so that you leave yourself, you pace it well in terms of dynamic, and also just slightly with the tempo if it wants to start moving along. But I don't think you have to go right away on the eighth notes and in the tempo that you want to be by the time you're at the end of this section. So this whole thing is just you kind of push it gently, and it kind of rolls along on its own, and then you push it a little bit more here, but it's not an obvious thing. It's a very gentle push. You want to just try that once more, just from the end of maybe from 139 going into the eighth notes, and we'll get up to the 16th, and then maybe we should go to the Izai. Yeah, good. One thing, one little trick I wanted to show you, and this you can use in the fugues or any time, or even in the Sicilian of the G minor. When you have a line, I'm looking at measures 145 and 6. The line is on the bottom here, right? You want to hear the eighth notes, dum, bum, 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 right? Mm-hmm. And you've got the chords. So the way you're doing it now, it sounds like the high D, and then the low E, and then the high F sharp, and then the E, F sharp, low, and then the high F sharp, and you know what I mean? It sounds sort of like it's jumping from the top line to the bottom line, because you're playing the chord, ending the chord on the top note on the beat. So what I do, which is a little bit of a trick, but I think it works, is I play the note that I want to be heard. Well, first of all, right on the downbeat, I would hold the F sharp a little longer, maybe not hold the D as long, so I hear that F sharp. But at least by the second beat, what I do is I play the low D by itself on the beat, and then roll it so I catch the other two upper notes. And the same thing for the last note of that measure and the next downbeat. I play the G by itself and then the A by itself. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And you hear that note by itself and it stays in your memory, but you have to do it on the beat. So you're not coming to the high note on the beat. Otherwise, it sounds like an arpeggiated chord leading to the high note. That's what I want to avoid. Do it once really slowly so the others can hear what I'm talking about. Make sure that it's working. It's just in that one measure. Do the first measure again. Yeah, yeah. It works except the downbeat. I still hear the E as the downbeat. So make sure the A is on the beat, right? You almost have to accent the low note a little bit. It sounds a little obvious when you're doing it slow, but when you do it fast, you actually will hear that bottom line. Now, play it once in tempo now. Yeah. I mean, at least you have a chance of it. And the thing that's difficult to get used to is actually playing the low note on the beat rather than before the beat. But I can hear that line much better that way. Play it the other way. Play it the way you were doing it before. Okay, now play it my way, so to speak. Could even hang out a little longer on the low note, just a little bit longer on the low note. Yeah. It's getting there. It's just still the downbeat of the second bar sounds like the E lands on the beat, but it's certainly clear. It's certainly clear to hear that. That comes in very handy in the fugues and any place where you have chords like that. You know, it used to be that everybody played the chord upside down. You'd start with the top and go down. I mean, that's the other way you could do this. That's certainly a way that it's done, is to start the arpeggio from the top and roll it down. But this is another way to bring out that low line, which may be a little less disturbing than doing the chord, upside down. Anyway, just a thought. Okay, but it really sounds very, very good. You have a great concept of this piece, and it's obviously something you feel deeply, and it sounds really, really good. So I hope all these things I'm saying are all relatively minor. I just would be a little careful about pulling the tempo apart too much, especially in that first section. You know, it has such a buildup, and it's like a cathedral. You know, it's just the foundation is so strong that if you move a cadence, if you stretch a cadence too much, it's almost like you're moving one of the pillars that's holding the cathedral, and you kind of have to be careful with that, because you can take time around it, but you're expecting the chords and the rhythm to come like the pillars of a great cathedral, very much spaced evenly. So when you do take time, it's a big deal. So don't do it too often, and don't do it too much. Around the beat, yes, you can be free. But this goes for like the first movement of the G minor and the A minor too. The chords, you want there to be some sense of where the chords come, and a certain inevitability with that, and you can be very free around that. So there's different kinds of freedom. You just don't want the whole cathedral to come crashing down. Okay. All right, but Nick, bravo. Sounds really, really good. Okay. Good, good. Manuel, hi. Sounds great. For some reason, Kevin, I didn't have a picture on that. I'm wondering if I should go back out and come back into the meeting, because when I looked at the program, I lost the big
Oh, that's so strange. I'm
big
sorry.
screen. No, it's okay.
Could I ask though, of all the people here, did other people see the picture? Just unmute yourselves and let me know. Huh? Yeah, there's a lot of people in the chat who say, yeah, they saw it. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, it was my screen sort of when Nick turned off his camera, it all went
Oh
dark.
no. Okay, so do you wanna leave the meeting and come back?
Yeah, let me back in. Let me see. How do I get out of here? Okay. Right, I'm going to try.
There's no waiting room. So now
Right. Let me try getting out of this and coming back. Okay.
okay, see you in a minute. We'll
Yeah.
miss.
See, I can't get out. I don't know how to get. I can't get out. I'm stuck in here. All right, Manuel, say something. Maybe we'll just do it the same way I did with Nick.
Hi.
Let me see.
Can you see him now?
Yes, I can see him, but he's very small. I can't get it.
You know,
It's really weird.
something called speaker view. And when he makes sounds, then he'll be big, right?
Yeah, but it's not. I don't know what it is. I'm like in a different part of Zoom. Oh, I don't have any of my controls on Zoom at the bottom, you know, that I usually have. I don't even have a mute thing. I have hide self view, mute my stop video. It's weird. I can't get this to go onto the full screen. When I try to go out, it just, well, let me try one more thing. I'm going to try to go out and come back. No, I'm still there. All right, well, we'll just make the best of it. I can see Manuel. Manuel, can you say something so I get you back up here?
Hi. Can you see me now?
Yes, I can. Okay.
One suggestion somebody made: Command W should allow you to leave.
Command W?
Command W, yeah. Let's see if you disappear.
Yeah. I could do Command quit, maybe. Leave meeting. Okay, let me do this and come back.
Okay, great. Terrific playing, by the way.
Thank you.
Okay. Now I'm back where okay, that's better. I don't know, that's really weird. This happened to me a couple of times with Zoom where I look at something on the chat or on the screen share or something, and then it takes me, I only see the little things like above the big picture, and it won't, and then I lose all my controls. I lose control. Anyway. Well, I would love to have seen that, but I did hear it. Generally, it's really good. I mean, you're playing this terrifically. It's very exciting. You know, with any of this stuff over the internet, one of the things that we all complain about, all of us who are doing a lot of teaching, and for all of you students that are listening on Zoom, you can hear this. The dynamics just don't happen as much. You know, so I think you can't really get much louder, you know, with the microphone right there. It's going to sound really ugly. but I think that all of us, whether it's in Bach or Isai or Beethoven, or even with Mozart, I think the dynamics have to be exaggerated a little bit more than when you're playing, in a normal, or the way you're hearing it, or the way I'm hearing it when I'm playing, especially the soft end of the dynamics. So the very beginning of this, I mean, he marks piano, right? Leggero. So I think you have to play really, really soft. The piece it's called Obsession, right? He's obviously got this music of the Bach running through his head, and I mean, I don't know what it is that if any of you have had the same thing, but during this pandemic, I've had certain music running through my head that I can't get rid of, and I don't know if it's associated in my own psyche as kind of being like having anxiety or something, but I keep hearing bum 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 bum, third Beethoven piano concerto, and then I also hear Bartok Romanian dance. I mean, why, and why are these things? They can't get rid of them. They keep coming back. So I'm thinking about Isai with this. That I don't know. I don't know what the story was with this exactly, but I can just imagine that he had this music, kind of in his head, and he was trying to, in a way, get rid of it. And then he thought, oh well, maybe I'll use that. I'll use that for this piece. So the first thing you play in this, and then the third thing, and then the fifth thing are actual quotes of the Bach, right? The ones that are in the first two of them are in piano. So I would play them like it's in your head. Don't really play them out too much. And then just stop. It's just like, no, you stop. Like, it's almost like a mosquito, something buzzes by your ear, and you kind of go like that. You stop it, and then you react. With this, he says with brutally. I mean, he wants it really angry, and then it comes back again, a little mosquito, and then you kind of go again. You try to. So I think it could be more dramatic. The way you pounce on that. And the first, I don't know, maybe I'm being too literal, but the first fermata is marked short, right? Only the first one. So maybe the second one could be a little bit longer, and maybe the third one even longer, just so it's not exactly the same amount of time. You want to just try the opening once more? So this is what's inside your brain, right? The first thing. Good. Okay. So the other thing I would say is, this has sort of become a tradition to do this, but maybe we don't need to do it. The first one, we haven't heard this music yet, right? Maybe the first one doesn't have to have the rubato in the beginning. Da 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 da. Maybe it's just more interesting to come in. Da 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 da. It's exciting because it's right off the beat, and it's so different from what you were playing before. That I would just play it straight. I wouldn't even make a retard at the end. I would just play and stop, just like suddenly stop. And then we have the Bach again. Then maybe the second one a little bit, do a little bit of that. But this is going to happen a few more times. So you don't want to do the same rubato each time. Then it's not rubato, right? It just becomes a thing. So let me try one more time from the beginning. Even softer in the beginning if you can. Good. Now, interesting thing here is that he doesn't have a fermata here before the, before the, for that he does the different bowing, but that's Bach. So maybe don't take so much time there.
Okay.
Do the second fortissimo one. That was good. I like the beginning that way. It's really good. Okay, and then really piano, right?
Mm.
Yeah. And only good. And it's only mezzo forte here, right? So that's why I want the piano to be really soft before it, so you don't have to come up too much here, because we're going to get this dies irae. It's going to be fortissimo later at the end and everything, so you have to pace it. I just felt there was too many things that were in the mezzo forte to forte range, so that I didn't get enough of the fortissimo or the really piano and pianissimo. And again, it has to be exaggerated for computer and Mr. Zoom. It just doesn't help because it gets compressed a little bit. I think also I'm not sure how you're doing it, but the marcato, the dies irae with the accents, could they pop a little bit more, like a little quicker bow, maybe on the almost as if you're hitting a chime, bum 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 bum, like that kind of accent. Can you just try it? Somebody's not muted. Everybody mute, please. It's a nice picture of a dog with a Bud Light can, but it's not. We got to be muted. Is there somebody? Okay, go ahead, man. Yeah, and maybe in between you can be a little more relaxed. So quick motion, then let go. Just do the accented notes. Don't play the other notes for a second. Bum bum. Yeah. So really quick motion with your fingers in your hand, but then let go. Yeah, and make sure your bow's straight. Your bow's a little crooked in general, on your down, but even on this make sure you're pushed out enough so that your bow is really straight. But even on these accents, if they're crooked, when you do that fast motion, the bow slips away from the bridge. So if you're straight, it'll stay in the sounding point. Okay, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Okay. Now do all the notes there. Really pop those accents. Good. Yeah. Make sure the fingers are doing it. When you did it by itself, your fingers were moving. They're real quick. A lot of energy in the fingers, but then relax in between. Yeah. Good. Yeah. So you're catching the string with your fingers, and then yeah, like that. Yeah, that's good. That was good the last time. Okay. And again, when the Bach comes back, it's again in your head, and then you stop it, you swat the mosquito again. Can I just see a little bit, because I didn't see you play it. I want to see some of these string crossings after that. Can you do from, where the Bach comes back on the, I don't know what edition you have, but it's on my second page. From there. Yeah, and when you stop, always, when you stop, always just really stop. You know, like physically.
Okay.
You have to act it out a little bit. As if somebody goes, okay, so when you have the string crossings in piano, again, I'd like this to be a little bit more relaxed. I was talking to Nick about this in the Bach too, so that your string crossings are, especially fourth finger, don't don't let that get tight, so that you can almost do these string crossings just with your wrist and your fingers. You don't have to be using your arms so much. Then when it's louder, in the mezzo forte, and especially at the end, you can use your whole arm and your shoulder, but still keep the hand loose, so the bow kind of wraps around the strings. It'll be a more beautiful motion and a more beautiful sound. Can you just try that from the third bar after the fortissimo when you start the string crossing? Yeah, try once where you don't move your arm this way at all. Just use your wrist. Just try it, just for practice. Yeah, if you do that a little bit lower in the bow, you won't have to move so much either. A little bit, a little like in the middle, a little closer to the middle. Yeah. You don't even really need to move your arm that much. You can get it really beautiful just with that. But the fingers, you can't. It's not just the wrist. The fingers have to also be right. I can't really see your hand too well because you're below the camera. Yeah, good. That's good. Yeah, one more time. Yeah. Manuel, try that, but also just a little bit higher the elbow, so you're not too low. Yeah, but don't yeah, you don't need to use that too much. Good. That's a good sound, and it's a good motion. Does that feel okay?
Yes.
Yeah, it should be more relaxed in there. Now, when you get then go to the mezzo forte after that, and then use a little bit more of the arm, but keep the hand and the wrist loose in there. Yeah. The other thing that might help with something when you're up high like that is to shift back your weight a little bit more on your left foot. Yeah, so you're up a little bit more. It'll be easier. Otherwise, you're kind of bowing. You're bowing a little bit this way. You want to get back. And when you're down low, I would come over like you're bowing toward the camera a little bit. It'll be easier. You won't have to go so high with your bow arm. Try that there, just where you're back a little bit. Try back on your left foot a little bit more. Yeah. And not sorry. And one more thing. Make sure the elbow's not too low.
Okay.
Yeah. This should really be like one plane here. It shouldn't be broken this way. I think if this is too low, this gets weak, and then you have all this extra weight. So I like to keep this pretty much, one plane. Yeah, that's okay. Just make sure that this is still loose here, right?
Mm.
Good. That's good. That's better. Everything's good about it except now the bow is crooked. If you do that, just what you did, but with a straighter bow, it'll be perfect. One more time.
Was it?
That was perfect. That was really perfect. Unfortunately, I'm teaching in a room where my phone machine is.
Mm.
Sorry. Okay. That sounds really good. Now, just jump to the end. I want to just hear how you're doing the. I mean, basically, it's going to be the same thing at the mano mosso, but you're going to use more of your arm. But again, the hand has to be really, really relaxed in that. You want to just play a little bit of that mano mosso near the end. Okay, so Manuel, so here, because you're down low, come over a little bit this way. You want to be now more on your right foot. Shift your weight toward me. Yeah, it's better, but not down. Don't put the violin down. Keep the violin up, but just come over, like with your at your hip, bow a little bit toward me. Yeah, yeah. And make sure your weight is on your right foot. Good. Okay, yeah, good. So, and again, very loose in here, right? So the feeling that my teacher Oskar Shumsky talked about, he had the most incredible bow arm, and he recorded all these eyes. They're amazing, Shumsky. But he would talk about, and I mentioned this to Nick too, this feeling of the hair kind of wrapping around the strings in a passage like this. But this has to be loose enough for you to feel that. If you're tight here, it won't happen. And then just keep practicing in front of the mirror, making sure your bow is straight, because otherwise the angle makes it slip away, and you're losing a lot of sound that way. And then also when it's slipping like that, you have to grab on tighter to keep it from slipping. So your hand, you're working against yourself there. If the angle is right, you don't have to hold on to the bow so much. The bow will just sort of sit there. It feels almost like a notch in the string, like this. Instead of the string being like that, it's like there's a little notch, and the bow sits right in that, in that notch like this. But that's the feeling if the bow is straight. If the bow, if you feel like you have to hold on to the bow to keep hold of it, you're probably crooked.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Because the natural thing is it's slipping away from you, and you hold it tighter. That's natural, but you want to avoid that. Okay. All right. I guess we should move on maybe to Izai 5. But thank you, Manuel. Sounds really beautiful. I mean, you have really terrific facility, and but I would play around a little bit more with the balance. Making sure if you miss something up on the E string, check where your feet are. A lot of times it's because you're a little bit off balance. It's not always your fingers that are wrong. Sometimes it's actually your feet. Okay. Okay. Good. Bravo. Good, bravo. Are you there? Yes, you're there. Okay.
Yeah.
Hi. Let me just get you. Okay. Can you say something?
Hi, yes.
Yes. Okay. Now I lost you on the. I still have Manuel on the big picture. I don't have you on the big picture. Let's see. Speaker view. Okay. Now say something.
Hello.
Oh, weird. Okay. You're still very tiny. I don't know. Zoom is being strange today. Kevin, I see your name, but I don't see you.
Yeah, I'm listening. Yeah. I was thinking that if she starts to play or talk, maybe she'll become big.
Yeah, maybe she'll come. Maybe I have it on speaker view. Yeah. Okay. All right. Anyway, so tell me how to say your name first of all.
Oh, it's Maitre, like
Mi-
Maitre.
Maitre. Maitre. Okay, beautiful name. And where are you?
I'm currently in North Carolina.
North Carolina. Okay. Where in North Carolina?
Winston-Salem. I study with Professor Lawrence at School of the Arts.
At School of the Arts. Okay, wonderful. Great. No, because my brother is in Charlotte, so I was just.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Good. It sounds beautiful. I was talking to Kevin about this last night. This movement this is a great thing to play for kids. You know, if you have to play for like young people, you talk about the dawn and what it's like early in the morning when it's just starting to get light and the sounds of the birds and little things waking up. And they love it. And then the sun comes up, and then it's just like, they just sit there with their mouths open, it's great. So it's a good thing for everybody to know this movement, especially for any kind of children's concert or outreach or anything like that. It's good. I mean, it's hard to, on the recording, there's a lot of ambient sound, which
Yeah, sorry about that. They were doing construction.
Yeah, I figured it was something like yeah. But anyway, the reason I'm saying that is so that the other people know that too, that it was a little hard to hear some of the more subtle things that I know you were doing. I could see that you were doing, but it was a little hard to hear sometimes. But in general, of course, in this movement, we have to give the impression of something that's starting very dark and then just slowly brightening up the way it is in the morning. I'm not really sure exactly why he has some markings in the beginning of this. When I was preparing for Queen Elizabeth competition many years ago. This is back in 1976, and this was the piece that we all had to play that year. And I traveled to Bloomington, Indiana, to play for Joseph Gingold because I had studied with him when I was little, and he had heard me play in Sibelius competition. He was on the jury there, and I didn't do very well there. And he said, "Why don't you come and play for me before you go to Queen Elizabeth?" And he gave me a whole day. We went through like all 17 pieces that I had to play for. But the reason I'm telling you that is that he had studied with Isaiah Gingold, and so he told me that when Isaiah played this movement, that he played it in a very impressionistic style, and that a lot of the dynamics were in the beginning were much softer than they're printed. That it was more pianissimo in the very opening, and even these little pizzicatos and sforzandos that are marked forte. Apparently, he didn't play it that way. So for whatever that's worth. So I don't know. When I play it, I don't. So I just sort of don't. I don't do the really forte left-hand pizzicato because it's supposed to be, people, animals, birds waking up, and there's like suddenly it's like it's a little too much. I would take all of those things down. I think that the sforzandos, the first ones that you have, like right away, and what is it, the 5, 6, the 7th bar and the 9th bar, those could be more within a piano. I think that was what Gingold said to me, and it makes sense to me. So you don't really get any big, you know, playing until half, more like toward the second half. Maybe then when the sforzandos come back at the end of the first page there, you have it on C sharp. That could be a little bit more, and then the next one, the A with the E flat pizzas, those could start to be a little bit more. But the very first few lines, I would keep it more within piano, even pianissimo. I think it just sets up the ending better. You know, you're only one violin playing this, right? I mean, you can't really get that loud, relatively speaking, at the end. So the softer you can play the soft places, the louder the end will sound. But I would love to just hear you do that in the opening. So maybe, I mean, he says SV, senza vibrato, right? I think it probably should be there for the whole measure. And then what I would do with the F natural is a little bit of vibrato on the F natural and the accent together. So both hands do a little sort of shimmer. But we go from the D. Yeah, even quicker and release. Don't vibrate too long. Just a little like shiver almost. Yeah. And then same thing. No vibrato. The next measure. Yeah, and I would say mezzo forte, not really forte. The pizzas. Then you can add some vibrato the next measure after that. Yeah, again though, a little bit with the left hand, the accent too. So that always, in other words, that will always, you'll always recognize that idea. It'll always have a little kind of shot of vibrato and the accent together. It just sort of does that. From the bar before. Good, good, good. Yeah, that all sounds good. I think where he says calm, uh, it's good not to move it there. Maybe the next one can move a little bit. And then when he says the third bar, he says to move ahead. So there, I think you can let it go. I mean, get yourself set at the top, but once you start coming down, let it move a little bit more. Try one more time from the calm, and not too clear with the left hand, and make it a little fuzzier. Don't play so well here. Okay, and this marking, by the way, you know, this line with the thing. Yeah, he wants you to use really the whole bow on it, but in a very light way, like on the first note, like a lot of bow, and then just sort of fit the other notes in. Yeah, it's a sort of a kind of an effect that you recognize from Izai. You know, that nobody, never seen that anywhere else. I don't think it must have been just an idea that he had. It's almost like, you know, if you're thinking of, like, if you were painting, you would just take a brush and put a lot of paint on it and just go whoosh, like that, you know. Go from the tremolo. Okay, sorry. One thing here. I think musically it gets a little bit stuck. I know it's hard, but I'm wondering if maybe you should take a little bit more time. You know, the first tremolo you have on from the A, D to F, C. So that should be 2 beats, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So just stay calm there a little bit. And then the next one, you have the quarter notes move a little bit. Then can we get the next 3 bars almost, you know, into the 4th bar to go ahead a little bit in those measures, and then take time for the big where you just ended, you know, in the fermata, going into the big fermata.
Okay.
It just needs a little bit more rubato, I think.
Okay.
But you have to start slow enough, otherwise you won't be able to play it. Okay, good. Good last chord and everything. Couple of things here. I didn't want to stop you in the middle of that. I'd like to hear, going back all the way back to after the fermata, where it's this canto espressivo. By the second bar of that, he starts giving you accents on the top notes, like the F and the E flat, D. A. Is there a way that that those could be brought out a little bit more? Just maybe a little bit more bow on those notes, or quicker bow. And then when you start the to keep those accents, let me hear those accents on the top notes there a little bit more, those couple of bars. Then when you get where it says fortissimo, it also says stringendo, and I don't feel like you're getting faster. I think it should keep going faster all the way until it says sede, right, where it says retard. Because it just kind of felt like it kind of stayed there. I mean, especially when you're coming down, it gets a little easier, right? Yeah. You could go faster there, and then I think it'll work. I don't do the fingering that's in there because I could never make it sound good, and I don't think it sounds that in tune, or I'd leave you alone. But could you try going to the open strings and being in fifth position? This is the 3 bars from the end, to use the open strings and then go first finger on the D string for the B.
Sure.
I think it's just much safer and it sounds better. Nobody will notice except me and maybe Kevin. Do it slowly once, just so you see, just from maybe where the bar of the city. Yeah, yeah. I mean, when you get used to that, I really think that's going to be better.
Okay.
And basically, it's basically just finding the B natural on the D string, right? And then you use the fingered octave, and then you're going to go from the B natural basically up a half step and across to the A string, to the G, right? It's just like you're going up to C, but across to the A string, and then reach up. So I think that, at least for me, that was a lot more secure than trying to do 1, 2, 3, and then the fifth on the top of the third finger is harder than with the second finger. Okay, so I think that'll be fine. Let me just hear a little bit of the canto espressivo again with the accents. I just want to make sure that those are coming through. You don't have to do that again. You need some time to work that out. But no, that sounds much better. Much better when you move before that too. And remember, this whole canto espressivo thing is only forte, and it's singing. So don't try to play too loud in there, because then again, the ending doesn't really sound any bigger. Like the sun isn't up yet. It's just still it's still coming up over the horizon. So don't. You can just play it a little more singing in that whole section. I think it'll be easier. And when you get to the where you have da 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 da, I could hear the accent, but I think if you just think of using a little more bow on the accented note itself, a little quicker bow speed, just on that. Just do that bar once, just with that. Yeah, so that's good. That's good. So it's just that, just the note where the accent is. And I don't really know why. I forget if I asked Ingold this or not, but I don't know why I don't think I play the E. You know, you see the accent, at least in this part. Were you playing from Henley or are you playing from the,
Yes.
does it have the accent on the last?
On the last one, yeah, it does.
Yeah, I know. I could never believe in that somehow. And so I just do them all the same. I think it sounds, I don't know. I'm probably wrong, but I don't know.
Izai was not a careful guy, right?
Well, he could be, you know, on occasion. No. Yeah, I think he probably, you know, he wrote these things very quickly. He wrote them all like within a month or something crazy like that. A couple of months, one summer, he had this idea to write 6 solo pieces, and it just like poured out of him. But I don't know, if you're more comfortable doing it that way, do it. But I always found it easier to just keep doing the accent on you know. I think it sounds weird when you switch the third one. It sounds like you just forgot to do it, you know. But anyway, sounds really, really good. And you know, just it's hard a little bit with the Zoom, but I could hear with the other one, even with the construction sound, that you have beautiful sound, and the all the chord and arpeggio playing, you're very nice and loose in your hand, in your right hand. I was talking to Manuel and to Nick about that, to get their hand to be a little more supple, and that's a good thing that you have. So hold on to that. Don't tighten this up. And your bow is pretty straight too, which helps. That'll keep, you know, because you're not holding on to keep it straight. So all that sounds good. Kevin, should we open it up to maybe some questions if anybody has, or anything you want to embarrass me by asking?
Well, actually, could I ask a little question before we get to matters of general interest?
Yeah.
Because I am mystified by this odd little marking, you know, the horizontal line with the 2 bars.
Yeah.
I mean, the explanation makes it sound like the single note you use the whole bow, which of course is.
Yeah. I think.
And I mean, you know, I see what you mean about holding the first note, you know, the first couple of these things. But then the third to last line, in my Schirmer, you know, edition, there's a crescendo. You know, the bar that has the 2 beats of tremolo. There's that mark to like hold the first note, the G, the open G.
Oh yeah.
Crescendo. So I mean, I wondered, I started to imagine that perhaps that mark meant just that the whole bow, like he wrote it on the first note of each thing, but the whole figure was whole bow. I mean, do you know anything about this beyond speculation?
I know that well, the way she did it the last time is sort of the way I did it, which was to use to give an impulse on the first note and then kind of let the rest of it fly.
Even when it's a crescendo.
Yeah, because then you make, you know, you add the bow speed to it. I mean, you don't like do it all the way so you have no bow left for it. But I thought because it's going up, it sort of does that anyway. You know, maybe if it were going down, you might have to. But I thought the way she did it actually sounded pretty close to the way I try to do it.
Yeah, that's great.
But
well,
yeah, it is a strange marker.
It comes up, you know, in all of these, and it's so odd.
I think the image that I said about sort of splashing paint on the canvas is probably the best. So however you do it, whether you do it with the whole bow but it's like you said, it should be a little bit messy. You know, it's not like taking a pencil and doing that. You know, it's taking a brush full of red paint and just sort of going like that at the canvas. So, yeah. Well, however you do it, however you want to be messy with the bow speed, I think it's okay.
Okay. So of more general interest, can you tell us how your playing has changed and developed over decades of performing and teaching? Do you have a sense of?
Well, I think for me, one of the biggest, the best ongoing lessons for me was having, first of all, having a lot of concerts recorded, and then going through those years of making a lot of recordings. We all, as a quartet, and also me personally, just, you think you know what you sound like. It's like we look in the mirror and we see what we kind of see what we want to see. Sometimes we see what we don't want to see, but then you see a photograph of yourself and you say, "Oh, I don't really look like that, do I?" And then maybe it's a really flattering picture, and it's like, "Oh yeah, that's the way I look," but actually I don't really look that good. It's just something about the photo makes me look better than I actually do. But with the process of recording and listening and analyzing, and as a group to do that, like to have a recording sent to us for approval, for instance, for broadcast, and then each of us has to listen to that, and we have to decide that. Then when we come back to the next rehearsal on that piece, there's always somebody will refer to that recording. And, I know you think that this, but I know we've been trying it this way, but, that recording from Denver, it just really didn't work. Could we try this? Something like that. So I think that in many ways is a big, just for myself, analyzing my own playing, recording, and also seeing video, because a lot of things, over the years have been video recorded. The other part of it for me, which is sometimes annoying, to be honest, is that I always have 3 teachers, and 4 if you include myself, when I'm playing in the quartet. And by the time I go out on stage to perform that piece in a concert, I've already gone through the process of several rehearsals, including a dress rehearsal, of and hopefully the other 3 have given me a passing grade, so that they're willing to walk out on stage with me to do this concert. That helps a lot, even though, as I said, sometimes it's tiresome to have somebody annoying me about something that they don't like, that they already said to me.
But they're always so diplomatic.
Right? Oh, they're very diplomatic, but they'll often say, I think I've said this to you before. And as soon as they say that, like, I start bristling. Like, I don't want to hear that. Just tell me what it is. I don't want to hear that you've told me this before and that I've forgotten or I can't do it. So it's better just to be really straight, and sometimes being too diplomatic it works against you, if you know what I mean. I just want to know what's wrong. Is it too loud? Is it too soft? Is it too fast? Is it too slow? Just give me the basics here. But sure, but that does really help. I mean, all the great teachers I was lucky enough to work with, starting with my dad, and then Gingold only for I think 3 years when I was very young, and then Raphael Druyan was the concertmaster in Cleveland, and then going and studying with Shumsky and Robert Mann and Felix Galamir. I mean, I couldn't have had better luck in terms of working, studying with teachers. But I've learned so much from playing chamber music, and this is something Isaac Stern often said, and I know he believed it, was that the best way to learn about music is to play chamber music. Now, in this pandemic, it's interesting. I mean, I think one of the hard things for us is that we're not able to play, at least in person, with other people. I haven't seen in person the other members of my quartet since our last concert, which was March 1st.
Wow.
Yeah. And we're planning to get together, I think, in the early fall, and try to do some performing, streaming, or recording, or whatever. But that's the longest period of time that we've been apart since we started the quartet back in 1976. So that's difficult. I think it's difficult for everybody, emotionally. And I mean, thank God we've got computers and cell phones. Can you imagine if we were going through this 100 years ago in the pandemic,
or even 25 years
ago? Yeah, without computers and cell phones, and being able to at least see our friends on the screen and talk to them and know that we're not. I mean, we all feel isolated, but know that we at least have this way of communicating, and we still have music in our lives, which is huge. The other thing I will say, to be honest about my upbringing, is that I learned so much from going to hear the Cleveland Orchestra and listening to recordings. My parents always had classical music on the radio or recordings. I heard the old Budapest quartet recordings of the Beethoven quartets since I was a kid. You know, I'd sit and listen with my parents, and they would point things out to me, and listen to Misha Schneider's beautiful pizzicato and in the slow movement of 59-3. And if you've never heard that, you should just hear the way he does the pizzicato of the second movement of 59-3. And you know, I appreciated that, and I also heard my dad. He played in a quartet from the Cleveland Orchestra, and I heard him rehearsing at our house, because my mom, along with being a very good violinist, was Italian and a great cook. And they would often rehearse at our house because she would have lasagna cooking in the oven, and the smell of the Italian food cooking always made the rehearsal go much more efficiently and much quicker. But I would sit at the top of the steps and listen to them playing. I could hear my dad play, which I couldn't when he was playing in the orchestra unless he was sitting, you know, principal second and had a solo. But and then I would hear them talking and joking around and arguing and discussing, and I just found the whole thing really fascinating. So, you know, it's all those experiences. You take all of those things and you learn from it, and you're in. I mean, I was so lucky to hear Cleveland Orchestra, George Zell conducting almost every week, and all these great soloists coming through, and then you know, you go home and you kind of try to imitate that, or try to do it, and of course you can't, but but you make improvements from being inspired. That's the best thing, is just to find something that inspires you, and it doesn't have to be a recording of a violinist. It can be listening to opera, or listening to Lieder, you know, listening to great singing and then trying to imitate that. I mean, that Dietrich Fischer-Dieskau had a tremendous influence on me, just in terms of the way he sang, the way he phrased, the way he understood the words, and the way the intellect, but also the feeling of what he did. So if you can find a great singer, you know, listen to Judy Garland sing "Somewhere Over the Rainbow" in the film. You know, she's 14 years old. That's one of the most beautiful performances of anything musical that I know. It's so natural and so beautifully sung and phrased. And you know, just go to YouTube and find it and listen to it. Just listen to it as if it were a violin, and try to imitate that sound and that phrasing. And you know, she sang it thousands of times after that. But it was, for me, it was never quite the same. And you know, they almost cut that out of the movie.
This,
It was so long. Yeah, they were going to cut Somewhere Over the Rainbow out of The Wizard of Oz.
glad they thought the better of that.
Yeah,
So,
really.
are there still moments when you're surprised and delighted by new musical experiences?
Well, you know, it's been interesting in the last few months, because I mean, I'll be honest. There were a couple of months there where and I've talked to a lot of people that went through this, where you know, the violin's sitting right over there, and I'd be teaching a lot and doing Zoom talks and things, and the violin was there, and I just didn't really want to play. I was so, I guess, depressed, you know, because everything was just, every day there were more concerts being canceled. We've had something like, now I think it's over 50 concerts have been canceled between March 1st and going all the way until you know, through the Christmas holidays. There's nothing. So what am I practicing for? But I'm actually going to Taiwan next week to play with Jimmy Lin and Carter Bray and a few other people, and I'm scared about flying right now, and I'm worried about, you know, all of that. But Taiwan is one of the safest places in the world, because they shut everything down, and they're very strict, still very strict about it. So I've been practicing a lot. I've been practicing more for these two concerts I'm doing there than I think I did for Queen Elizabeth competition. But it's just very hard when I don't have when I don't have the performance looming. It's hard for me to be really disciplined, and for some people that's not the case. But I'm sure for a lot of you students, it's not been easy to feel
It's just so different for everybody.
Yeah.
I do think for our students that the experience of having to make recordings
Yes,
is going to help. I mean, that's
absolutely.
not always easy and it's not always fun, but it really helps you listen and,
Yeah,
like you say, be objective about what you're actually doing.
yeah, and also learning the technology. I mean, we're all having to learn. It's not just learning why Zoom doesn't work sometimes, but actually trying to do some of these layering recordings, which my quartet hasn't done yet, but I know I'm experiencing it now with the Heifetz Institute. They're doing these kinds of things, and it's just another process. It's not ideal, but you can learn from it if you do it musically. You can't do it with a click track and try to make it sound like music. It's not going to work. But I think you can learn as long as you're doing something. You're working towards something, and even if it's just learning how to do something technologically, it will benefit, I think, all of us later on. Certainly, the recording process, as I said, it was very important to me. That's why I brought that up in the beginning, because I think that is something that we all can do more of. Now we have to be playing into a microphone because of the pandemic. But make sure that you're not just playing it and then sending it off to your teacher and then waiting till you hear what they have to say. Really listen to what you're doing, and you'll learn at least as much from what you hear as what your teacher's going to hear. Then when your teacher hears it and tells you things, then you take all of that and put it with what you're hearing, and then it makes a complete picture. But I think a lot of times teaching, it's just, if you don't record the lesson and go back and actually listen, not to what the teacher's saying, but actually, listen to what you sound like and why the teacher's saying those things, you don't really improve as nearly as quickly as you could.
It has to be something you own instead of somebody nagging you. You
Right.
realize it yourself.
Right.
I know you have to go. I just want to end with a truly trivial Zoom tip. If you turn on original sound, you get more dynamic range.
Yes, that's true.
So I'm sure that when we're looking for more dynamic range in these recordings and lessons, that can help.
Yes.
So,
also, if you go to the little arrow next to the microphone and click on that, it goes to settings, audio settings. And if you see that, you see the microphone down at the. For me, it's on the lower.
oh, yes. Okay.
Yeah. And then there's a little arrow next to it. If you click on that, it should go into settings,
Mhm.
and then if you're on audio settings, down at the bottom of that, it says advanced.
Right.
And then it make sure that it says show in meeting option to enable original sound. Make sure that's clicked. And then the suppress persistent background noise, intermittent background noise, and echo cancellation, all that should be on auto, not on disabled. Or you can put it on aggressive if you want. But anyway, those things apparently help.
We got to do what we can.
Yeah.
It sounds
And the other thing that really is good is if you can get onto Ethernet. The Wi-Fi, even if it's good Wi-Fi, it's But both you and the student has to be on plugged in. Plug the Ethernet cable into. Then it really is like perfect. But it's hard. It's hard for everybody to do that.
Well,
anyway, that's what I've learned.
For braving the
Yeah.
the issues that we can all face with Zoom, and
Yeah.
for letting us hear your thoughts. And
Well, I hope it was helpful to the three that played for me, but also helpful to everybody else. You learn from watching and listening too.
Oh, you
And
know,
Kevin, thank you so much for inviting me to do this. It's
we'll look forward to actually seeing you in person next summer.
well, I really hope so. I really look forward to that, and it makes me feel good that I'm in touch with you and with all of your wonderful students there. And just everybody be safe. Keep wearing the masks. Don't listen to anybody who tells you not to. Keep washing your hands. Do all those things that you think you might not need to, but believe me, rather be safe than sorry.
Thank you. Stay well. Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you so much, everybody. Take care. Bye. Bravo, you three that played. Take care, Kevin. Do my best to Barbara too.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.